Hey everybody, welcome back to the Weekend Woodshop. My name is Rick. Well, I take that back. Welcome back to what used to be the Weekend Woodshop. Now, we've changed the name, and we did that a while ago. Some of you probably noticed, and I don't know that I ever gave an explanation as to why. I do more out here than just on the weekends. It is actually a future business endeavor for me, and so instead of being called the Weekend Woodshop, we're going to just call it what it is, and that is Richard Brooks Woodworking. So welcome back to the channel. I hope that you are ready for some cool stuff. First off, I want to apologize for the fact that it has been so long since we have put out a video. We put out some videos earlier in the summer and the spring, but nothing since then. And it's because life just kind of happens, and things get overwhelming, and you got work and family and other obligations, and you just don't get enough time to get out and do the things that you want to do. Of course, I do have a full-time job, and that full-time job has to take up most of my time. So I didn't get as much time out here in the wood shop as I would have liked, so I didn't get to create any cool videos. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't have woodworking projects. I had a couple of projects, but they were projects that were just, at the time, they were just too cumbersome to record. So that's why they never made it to a video format. But I'm back. We're here. We're going to do a little update video today. And we're going to talk about some things that are coming up on the channel in the future, as well as some things that have changed in the shop. And the first thing that has changed, and you probably can see it sitting right here in front of me as I'm standing here, and that is we have a different table saw. This is the rigid R4511. Now, yes, I do know that that table saw has a recall on it. I'm working with Rigid to get that recall taken care of. Apparently there's an arbor problem, a spindle problem, if you have a dado stack. I don't have a dado stack, so the saw is technically safe to use, but I do want to get it fixed because eventually I would like to get a dado stack. I found this thing on Facebook Marketplace for $50. I could not pass it up. So we've got ourselves a newer table saw, but that brings into question what happened to the old table saw. Well, the old table saw is on its way out. The DIY table saw, while I am very proud of what we did there, while I'm very proud of what I created there, it's old and tired. The saw that I used to build that table saw was old and tired when I got it. It just doesn't cut it anymore. To put it bluntly, it just doesn't cut it anymore. So the saw was old and tired. It's just an old Milwaukee circular saw that, again, was old when I got it, and so it's time for that saw to retire, and we're in the process of tearing it down and getting it parted out and out of the shop. But this table saw, again, found it on Facebook Marketplace a couple of weeks ago for $50, and it has a few cosmetic issues wrong with it, other than the recall that it has. It does have a few cosmetic issues, but honestly, it's a great saw. I've used it a few times for a few minor things. And it works well. It works very, very well. Now, there are some things that I've had to fix on it. I want to talk about those things real quick. The first thing is the fence system. This bar over here that holds the back of the fence, it was bent. So I had to straighten that, but fortunately, I know some metal shop guys, and they were able to get that. It's just a piece of angle, so they were able to get that straightened up for me, and it is in perfect condition now. The fence is parallel to the blade, parallel to the miter slots. That is working perfectly. The other issue that it had when I bought it was the side cover over here. It had some cracks in it. Actually, it was broken into two pieces. I have got it fixed up a little bit. I'm going to make better repairs to it, but it is keeping the motor covered as we speak. The third problem that I have fixed is the on-off switch. The switch that came with it was broken, missing, whatever, and someone replaced it with just one of those decorative rocker switches that you'd find in a house, and so it had no safety feature on it. It was either on or off. And if you lost power while it was on and the power came back on while it was on, the saw would just start running, right? So being an electrician, that was an easy fix for me. I got an aftermarket safety paddle switch and wired that back in. So now I've got a safety switch on here, and life is good. Power goes off while the saw is running, the saw will shut down, and it will not start again until you push the power button to turn it back on. Plus you've got the paddle stop in case of emergency, or just regular old using the saw. Now, a couple of things that this saw still needs. Number one is it does not have dust collection. So I want to incorporate some dust collection into it. Of course, I will bring you guys along on the ride for how I sort that out. And then the other thing that it has, I believe this saw was involved in a kickback at some point, because the throat plate is not as flat as it should be. And I believe that it's either somebody cut something on here that they shouldn't have, and it pulled the throat plate down, or it suffered a kickback and it hit violently, so it's got a little bit of issue. But I'm going to make a new throat plate for that, and of course I'll bring you guys along with that as well. One of the good things about this saw is that it has a much bigger motor on it. Again, the old DIY saw was made with a circular saw, an old Milwaukee circular saw, and of course limited horsepower on that. This is a 1.5 horse motor, so looking good. The other thing that I want to talk about is what comes next. So my plan here is to outfeed off of the table saw to the workbench. But the workbench, as we've talked about numerous times on this channel, the workbench is too large. The workbench is too big. It's 4 foot by 8 foot. So I want to scale it down probably closer to 3 by 5, 3 by 6. And then also it is too tall. So I need to shorten it down by about 1.25 inches so that we can get a good steady off feed off of the table saw to that workbench. As we pan around the shop, you'll see that there's a few other things that are new or out of place or whatever. The first thing is this other Ryobi table saw that I've got here. I did borrow that from a good friend of mine. Billy, thank you so much for letting me borrow that table saw to get me through a couple of rough patches with angled cuts and whatever that the DIY table saw couldn't do. And of course, the other new thing that you see in the shop is we have a new miter saw. And you probably remember when I ditched my miter saw a long time ago. There were many reasons why I ditched that. One of them was that I didn't really have the room for it, but I also didn't have the right saw for what I needed. It was an old Craftsman saw. Nope, it was an old Delta saw, and it didn't have a slide on it, and it was not a great saw. So this one is much better. It's made by Bauer. Got it from Harbor Freight. Dust collection isn't great on it, but what miter saw is, unless you're talking about like Festool Capex, what miter saw does have great dust collection. I got some ideas to try and take care of that as well. That's where we stand in the shop. Again, I am super sorry for how long it's been since we've put out a video. I'm going to try and do my best to make sure that we get future content. Speaking of that future content, I do have some projects in mind. A, workbench. B, chisel storage, plane storage, other projects that I've got built that I'm in the process of building. I've got one Christmas present that I'm currently making that I do want to make a video for, because it is going to be a very special project. So hopefully you're subscribed and you got your notification bells turned on so that you don't miss that project. But again, thank you all so much for the support. Thank you for hanging around even though I wasn't putting out any content. I hope to remedy that here in the very near future. But as always, and most importantly, thank you for watching. We'll see you later.